Hey, everybody, and welcome back to Beyond the Trailer Park. And of course, always joining us from out there in good old Pennsylvania. Good evening, Beth.
Good evening.
And from the wild and crazy Mississippi. Good evening, Miss Morgan.
Good evening.
And as usual, we have Triss over in the chat. They come pretty much every week now, so that's pretty awesome. Good to see you over there, Triss. So, first of all, how crazy has this week been? Holy jeez. Anybody sick of television yet?
Well, I haven't been paying attention.
Okay. Okay, well then you're excused. Fine.
I mean, I have, but I'm like, fuck that. I'd rather do this.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
preoccupied. Okay, so my bad. I didn't dig nearly as deep into this as you two did, but that's okay because for once in a while, you two have to pull your weight around here, you know.
Yeah.
Oh man, so I happened to stumble across this several months ago. Somebody posted about the Dr. Phil show on my Facebook, and yeah, Dr. Phil's a bit cringy at times, but occasionally it's good when there's nothing else to watch. So I thought, well, what the hell is this shit? So I popped over and took a look, and holy shit. Wow.
Literally, holy shit.
Literally, holy shit. Yes. And
the line in our title, the new poop cult, is not a pun. This
no.
is a poop cult. Very similar, if y'all remember, to Carrie Rivera and MMS.
Which is, what does MMS stand for again?
Mineral Miracle Solution. It's the bleaching agent they would shove up autistic kids' ass, believing that it cured them of autism.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, I will make this caveat. It's not quite that bad. Yes, they are using it on autistic kids. Occasionally, I've seen some reports, one or two here or there. They're not advocating this, at least not the way Carrie Rivera did. So there is that one little, to borrow a phrase, blessing.
Well, let's not get too far ahead yet because there's a shit ton of other incredible things that she claims. And oh, I'm all out of focus. There we go. So, first of all, Beth, who is she that we refer to?
We are talking about Jillian Mighty Epperly. She
Okay.
is, this is going to sound horrible, but I don't really give a fuck. She's a nobody. She has no medical training. She has no science training. If you read her writings, I thought I was the queen of run-on sentences. This lady, no punctuation. I thought I was bad about capitalizing, but at least if I'm writing a quote serious posting, I make the attempt, even though sometimes I goof. Okay, she's all over the place. Her videos that she does almost on a daily basis are anywhere from 10 minutes to an hour long of the worst verbal diarrhea I have ever heard.
Irony.
Well, actually, I was gonna say word salad and diarrhea popped into my head, and it is fitting. Epperly is originally from Vietnam. She came to the States when she was about 2 years old and was adopted by American parents. Supposedly, her father worked in biotech and her mom was like a psychologist or something. Um, so,
Apparently not a very good one.
well, she said that's where she learned to manipulate people.
Yeah, my dad's that would be like me saying I know how to fly a plane because my dad knows how to.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think anybody's dying to hand over the controls of a jet to me anytime soon, though.
Okay. And my dad was a farmer, but I never learned how to milk a fucking cow, okay?
I mean, one thing I will say is that based on what I've read and listened to, I don't really think the influence of her parents are as great as for, like, let's say somebody, maybe a Jeffrey Dahmer, because I know his mother was like overbearing. So I think it's more of a perception thing, but
Right.
I'm not in a place to judge that. I don't know anything about her childhood and yada, other than what little she has said. So, but
Right.
she has stated that because her father worked in biotech, she points to him as being her source for insider information. She's against vaccines, of course,
Of
and
course.
although it's really weird, we might touch on it, but yeah, it's really weird. And she presents the common anti-vaccine argument that big pharma is in cahoots with doctors to keep Americans sick and addicted to medication. It's one of your typical talking points. What started her journey into this poop fascination was, according to her, in various postings and videos, she talks about developing premenstrual dysmorphic disorder, or PMDD.
Okay, what's that? I've never heard of that.
Which, for those that don't know, is a severe form of premenstrual syndrome. Now, I have a friend who has it, and basically, once a month they're bedridden because they get PMS so bad that, I mean,
Okay.
yeah, it from what I understand from what little I do, it can be very extreme. Um,
But it
she's
also can be managed through medication and, like, through birth control and things like that, or even some people go as far as, getting hysterectomies.
yes.
Yeah.
But she says she tried every single detox pill, powder, supplement that she had access to, and joined millions of different woo-woo groups and whatever, promoting their wares, but she never got any relief. She started dabbling in fermentation, like camphor. Um,
Now, I'm aware of, because my husband loves it,
mhm.
kimchi, but that is a Korean dish.
Yeah,
So
it's a fermented vegetable, and
cabbage.
I
It's fermented cabbage.
yeah, it just with added seasonings and stuff. But
Mhm.
A lot of garlic. A lot of garlic.
yeah, a lot of garlic, and boy, I won't eat it on any day but a Sunday because I'm not around on Mondays.
Oh man, when he only eats it in the winter, thankfully, because it's also very spicy from what I understand. I don't touch the stuff, but it stinks up the whole damn house. And
Yes.
last winter he got an especially pungent jar of it, and I had to burn incense for like 2 days. It was brutal.
Yeah, kimchi is another form of a fermented vegetable. But she said she got into doing this, like, kombucha, pickles. In fact, I was talking to some people in my one of the groups I'm in, and they're like, "Well, I drink pickle juice. Is that weird?" It's like, well, no, because I know quite a few people that do
No,
drink.
I drink pickle juice. Like, I mean, I don't drink it constantly, and I don't believe it like cures anything. But I'm just like, I just like the.
You don't keep jars of it in your cupboard.
Yeah, no, it's just like if I have a jar of pickles and then I'm out of pickles, I'm just like, oh, I've got pickle juice left, and I'll occasionally
Well,
drink it or whatever.
I like pickled beets. Okay, I only like a certain brand, so when I buy it, I buy 5, 6 jars of it. Well, I save the juice and then I'll pickle you like red onions and cucumbers in it. So none of it gets wasted. So I keep the juice
The
around.
other night, well, was it last night even or Saturday night? I was in the kitchen and I, out of the corner of my eye, I saw my husband take a small pot off the stove, dump the contents into a cup, and start drinking it. I'm like, what the hell is that? He goes, beet juice.
I know, yeah, I know a lot of people that drink pickle juice and beet juice. One friend I have drinks the juice from jalapeno or not jalapenos, banana peppers, which are their lighter colored ones and not quite as hot. But yeah, so she got into this and she, according to one interview, said at some point she decided to swap cucumbers for cabbage, and then she upped the spoons of salt in her little brew.
Concoction.
And she said that was the genesis of her theory. Basically, to put it bluntly, her slop is basically a liquefied version of sauerkraut. It's not original.
Ugh.
I mean, the only thing that makes it a quote original is the 1 tablespoon of salt.
And that's per how much cabbage that she puts in there, just to give some
2 cups,
context.
2 cups of cabbage, 2 cups of one or 2 cups of water, I can't remember off the top of my head, and 1 tablespoon of salt. Now, one of the reasons I don't want to focus too much on the sciencey part of it is that it's very easy to, lack of a better word, debunk this notion that this brew is going to cure anything. Okay.
Well, we can pretty much cover that with it doesn't do shit. Or well,
And it
okay.
probably makes your blood pressure go sky high too, I imagine.
Well, no, let me take that back. It does do shit. It just doesn't do anything else.
Yeah. Well, I did
one of the side effects, and those of you who have joined us from one of Beth's groups, you'll be familiar with this, so not to worry. But for those of you who aren't, one of the side effects is explosive diarrhea, and that's I'm not mention that again.
Liquefied.
Yes.
But,
yes. Oh, and Nate, no, pickle juice is not code for anything else. Just so you know, you're safe.
But okay, as I said, the recipe is 2 cups of water. It is, and then the 2 cups and the 1 cup of, or 1 tablespoon of salt. If you convert that to a gallon, which is how Jillian likes to have you store it,
Right.
that 55,200 milligrams of salt or sodium, okay, which is 24 times the recommended daily allowance. Now, that right there should tell you it's not going to cure jack shit.
No. Well, put it this way. If it was, doctors would just say, okay, take this jar of salt and go home and eat it by tomorrow.
Yeah, well, if we remember, I think it was either last year or the year before, a woman was convicted for killing her
child, yes,
with salt. Okay, salt is not something you fuck around with. Okay, being that I've had 2 strokes, I've had 2 heart attacks, although not salt related, I am in one of those groups that would probably be wise to be very careful with my salt intake. Okay, I grew up in a no salt household for that reason, because both my mother and my father had high blood pressure, salt related. So you mentioned, doctors would just give you blah, blah, blah. Well, one of the things that the minions, and I'm going to say it's probably supported by Epperly as well. I've never seen her refute it. So, is a book called The Fix, and in that book, it talks about salt's not the problem, sugar is. And this doctor's protocol calls for 3,000 to 6,000 milligrams of salt a day instead of the recommended 1,500 to 2,300 milligrams. Okay, so even at that level, 3 to 6,000, you're still talking, it's like 6 times the recommended daily allowance. So no matter how you slice it.
Well, Trish says, damn girl, my blood pressure's going up just listening to that.
Yeah, it's like I couldn't sleep today. So I've been making memes of just some of the BS that she's claims, you can't refute this. And I was telling Deb this before the show. One of it's basic. This is basic 7th grade chemistry. Okay. Salt is either an element or a compound. No, it's not. It can't be. By definition of what an element is, and by definition of what a compound is. And no, you cannot use them interchangeably. They're two different substances. An element, if you take salt, which is NaCl, sodium chloride, sodium is the element, chloride is the element. Together, they're a compound. So elements and compounds aren't the same thing. So, and this is basic stuff. So why I don't want to focus too much on that.
Yeah.
Because it's I'm just sitting here out of boredom, just picking these things apart. So, I mean, the chemistry, the science is just not there. She's at some point, I've seen her call it sacred. She only uses pink Himalayan salt, and at some point, she's called it sacred pink.
Of course.
Okay, so there's a lot of woo in here, and
so how does it is it innately sacred, or does she have to do some like ritual shit to make it sacred?
Not to get too overly political, if you know anything about where pink Himalayan salt comes from.
Well, it's Tibet, isn't it?
Pakistan.
Oh, that part of the Himalayas.
Yes. Basically. So people that are using it, I mean, she touts that it's so sacred. Well, yeah, blood is basically digging out your sacred salt there, lady. So yeah, but not to go off on that tangent, but yeah. I mean,
I'm thinking lots of child labor.
Yes. But yeah, that's basically what it is. And like you had mentioned, it causes issues with our bodies. It can cause
and having seen the Dr. Phil show and pictures, it looks absolutely revolting.
Well, I don't have a link to it right now because I kind of buried them, but I will post them on our page, and I'm going to do a blog post on this deal. Miles Powers, and that's the name of his YouTube channel as well, has done an episode where he made the brew and he actually tried it. Okay, he barely got a sip in because he could not get past the stench.
Ugh.
So now, one thing I know, one of the biggest criticisms that I've found, because I do ferment, I'm very familiar with the process. And there's no way you are fermenting anything in 3 days. Minimum is 10.
And let's point out that you also have culinary training where she does not.
Yeah, for those that don't know, I have 40 years in the food service business too. So, but yeah, you're not going to get a proper, and proper being the key word, ferment in 3 days. Minimum, bare minimum is 10 to 14.
Well, and what got me looking here, like I've got your notes here and was sort of skimming through, and she's talking about how somebody asked if this stuff has a shelf life, and she's like, "Well, salt has no shelf life, so no, it doesn't expire."
Salt, the salt in and of itself is a problem, but in quote shelf life, the salt is not the problem. See, salt, when you're fermenting, salt will actually inhibit fermenting.
So, a short fermentation time with something that's full of salt guarantees you virtually no progress.
A bottle of mold.
Ugh.
And this is mostly speculation.
You froze there for a second.
I said this is mostly speculation based on people I have talked to. But when you do any type of canning or fermenting, your equipment has to be sterile. Okay? In other words, reuse jar, big 5-gallon pickle jar, is not proper protocol. You are walking into issues with mold. There are screen grabs that I have. I don't know if I had any in my notes, but where she just tells people to scrape the mold off and drink it.
Oh,
Okay.
Which no telling what bacteria is in there too.
I mean, she touts that it's a probiotic, and
that doesn't
go eat yogurt.
That'd be like me going out and being like, "Oh, let me eat all this salmonella so that I can get the probiotics from it." Like, what?
Oh, ew, ew.
Now,
just go out to like the local backyard pond and scrape the stuff off the top.
now
Open your mouth in it.
Caveat out there is the issue with scraping the mold off and shit like that. I'm going to guess that probably does not happen very often, just for the simple reason that I'm hoping that her minions are smart enough not to drink a moldy cabbage.
I don't know.
But
I like Tris. Tris says, "No wonder you end up shitting your brains out."
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. That's one of the side effects of hypernatremia, and that's salt poisoning.
Right.
And,
also kills brain cells.
Yes, it does. It actually a extreme severe case. Sorry about the adjectives there. Will actually shrink your brain. Okay.
Maybe that might explain her ongoing fanaticism, perhaps.
As something to quote joke about, maybe, but I find it very troubling, because one of the things I found out while I was looking into this, and I was telling Deb, I have about 62 pages of notes, I think I have, which right now breaks down to about 10 blog posts that I'll be doing. And it's really scary, because take the health bullshit aside for a second. This is a cult, and I'm not joking about it, being a poop cult. This is literally, like Carrie Rivera, she has what's called coprophiliac, which is, there are screen grabs of her, and I have one of her bragging about sticking her fingers where the sun don't shine and pulling.
What?
She's actually commented about, and I'm sorry for being so graphic, pulling shit out her ass.
Okay, but what? I don't understand how she would need to do that with the
Why?
whole.
She wanted to cause these waterfalls, as she calls it, because she was going. She didn't want to have an accident. I have a screen grab of a lady talking about how she had an accident in bed on her husband. Okay.
Oh.
Okay. Now, get that out of your mind a second.
Trish says, if only you could see my face right now.
I can just imagine, Trish. Trust me, when I started reading this stuff, I thought reading about Carrie Rivera and what she did with autistic children was horrendous. And yes, they do inspect their poop for parasites. This is part of her bullshit. This is why the parallels between the two, and something that a friend of the show, Deanna, made note of to me. We have actually found out we're in the same group. Um, she was involved, and I don't remember the name, so you can kill me later, Deanna, with a group that is I'll say offshoot of Scientology. Genesis Church from MMS is also Scientology influenced. And one of the first things that I noticed when I started reading all the information was that she had this whole thing about parasites, the same as Rivera, and the purging of parasites.
Peyton.
Another
Yeah.
thing I noticed was that she talks about, this candida, the bacteria, which is and then this whole gut health obsession. And I've seen where a lot of people, especially in my region, get involved in these pyramid schemes, like these like diet pills and things like that. And they're all about like, oh, well, it's all connected to your gut health and everything, and you'll lose like 30 pounds, and or you'll have so much more energy, and or it'll cure all your stuff because all your health is connected to your gut, including mental health. And it's like this woo that surrounds that. So that's just
Yeah.
something I picked up on.
Misnomers in that which are connected to both Rivera and to also to Epperly, and anybody that speaks of the leaky gut syndrome, which
Oh.
doesn't exist. If you had a leaky gut, you better be in the fucking hospital, darling. Yeah, your stomach is permeable to a degree. It has to be. It's part of your digestive system, and that's how you get nutrients. And so are your intestines, etc., etc. But if we had perforations in our GI that were large to allow food particles to lodge in our body cavity, we would be going into septic shock very quickly.
Yeah.
That's why they tell you when you have surgery on your abdomen, especially, don't eat for 24 hours. And why they give you a barium enema 12 hours before your surgery, sometimes even longer. They tell you, eat no food or drink. That is why, because if that fecal material gets in your body where it's not supposed to be, it's going to cause issues. And that's what happened to my mom when she got so sick 10 years ago. Is she had a blockage in her colon, and she started vomiting, but she was vomiting feces.
Oh.
Yeah, because of the blockage, it got into her lungs and caused an infection.
Oh man.
This is not something you fuck around. This leaky.
By the way, just to get not intelligent design, people, really not. But anyway, ew. But so the bottom line, and for those of you who missed it, the explosive. Yeah, they call it waterfalls. And so I've been waiting to play this since the beginning of the show, but what we just described ensures that you should never. I had to.
Go for it. That's good. We trust me, we will need the comic relief because this is I mean, the medical issues, science issues aside, the cultic, I'm sorry, my speech is really bad tonight. Aspects of this are very disturbing. I mean, you know, she has been known to target, well, she makes claims that I'm not sure how I want to. She makes claims that she can cure terminal illnesses, acute and chronic, with acute or chronic diagnosis.
It's ridiculous claims. Like Dr. Phil goes into it. And of course, my favorite one, it can cure the gay.
And I haven't even delved to that one yet because I as I said, I'm planning on a bunch of blog posts.
And my second favorite one, it can grow amputees' limbs back.
Yeah,
I can't fucking wait to see that.
Oh, and you can live until the age of 400.
Oh, yeah. Because that's it. Noah was drinking that shit. That's what it was.
Yeah,
that's he ended up to be like 900 fucking years old.
She's actually, as she calls, planting seeds in groups, and I won't say, I don't know if they're necessarily Facebook groups, but I'm assuming for people that have Down syndromes, that we can reverse the genetic abnormality plus reform the shape of the face, because as you know, with Down syndrome, facial deformities, lupus, fibromyalgia, autism, of course that's in there, PTSD, cancer, and a whole shitload more.
Yeah, and she claims ADHD too. So apparently all my medical problems can be just solved by.
I'm just thinking. If you guys think back to the Ark encounter and the giant poop tunnel on the Ark that Ken Ham came up, if they're drinking this shit on the Ark and chasing waterfalls, oh man. 40 days of that. Just anyway.
How absurd she is, and the one screenshot, if you can pull it up, Deb, where it says I put out a request for anyone. It's amputee lost.
I've got it here. Let me just see. I've got to expand it a little bit. One momentito, coming right up. And for those of you who are listening to this on the podcast version later, pop on over to our Facebook group, and Beth will put a copy of this up for you to see.
Yes, and I'm gonna read off what the meme. Okay. So, would help if I got the right fucking page. Okay, so this is Jillian Epperly speaking in a blog post dated September 25th.
Looks like a Facebook something.
Yes, it's a Facebook posting, and it's 25th of September of this year. Okay. I put out a request for anyone that's willing to risk their reputation and ridicule and online harassment and stalking. Oh, by the way, no periods and commas in this. And stalking who are amputees to do the protocol with witnesses that you regrow your limb, as well as missing organ patients regrow organs. And she's got lousy grammar. I do have the science behind all the claims, and I'm making on my website. If you truly want to know, but I do request anyone who is willing to be adopted by me to put themselves out there and prove to the world that they can regrow an organ, a limb, and reverse Down syndrome, as well as autism, as well as reverse your paraplegic, quadriplegic body, reverse deafness, blindness, etc. possibilities. And trying to read her is really difficult.
Yeah, she's didn't do very well with English class, apparently.
Also, if you have missing organs, wouldn't you be dead?
You'd think. Well, I guess.
I mean, I guess you could like have one kidney or like not have an appendix or be on a transplant list, but it made me seem like, oh, I'm missing a heart. Let me regrow one.
Well, what's really bizarre in one, where is it? There it is. In one posting, she put, this is from, I believe, last year. Sadly, these don't have dates on them. Another Facebook post is dated June 16th. I'm assuming 2017, might be 16, but I'm going to say 17 because she's only been doing this about 2 years. But when I say if everyone thinks I'm nuts, laughing my ass off, she cites an article from the Daily Mail, okay?
Yeah.
British woman, 36, regrew one of her ovaries. Now, I did a little digging because Daily Mail is not always the best media outlet to cite as a source. They are correct. But I'm not quite sure how a medical rarity of ovarian remnant syndrome vindicates Jillian Epperly's claim that you can regrow your limbs. It's a 1 in a million happening among people.
And also, that's an ovary. That's not an arm.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Basically, ovarian remnant syndrome is a very rare condition where a small piece of ovarian tissue or pieces are inadvertently left in the pelvic cavity following surgical removal. The remnant tissue can grow, form cysts, or hemorrhage, and it produces pain just like PMS and the other one. Ovarian remnants can reimplant themselves anywhere in the abdominal cavity, including the bladder, bowel, and urethra. It's not a sweet thing to have your ovary grow back. But if you notice in that little explanation of, and the girl's name is Emma Getvoldson, in her status, nowhere does it say anything about consuming 55,200 milligrams of pink Himalayan salt. Okay, regeneration in this case requires the presence of existing tissue. So if your arm has been amputated for whatever reason, there's no tissue there. Your arm is gone. And I'm very sorry about that. I'm not making light of amputees. So that part being gone kind of negates the requirement of having tissue present according to this ovarian remnant system.
Right.
So in my opinion, using this rare case, 1 in a million, literally, I don't understand how she can use it as evidence of possible regrowth.
Well, and
It's purposely misleading is what she's trying to do. She's trying to purposefully mislead people because you do click on this article and it does go to the Daily Mail, which, and you do, and as you said, Beth, you looked into it and it was like, seemed to be, legit, but you had to do some digging and you had to understand like about this ovarian remnant syndrome and what it is and how it differs from these claims. Whereas, I feel like somebody just looking into it, just looking at a cursory glance, they're not going to realize the distinctions and the differences because, they're not as involved in this woo stuff as, as you are.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. It's very misleading. And in my opinion, especially for someone who I've had 2 fingers reattached. When you lose, I mean, granted, only my fingers, and as I said, they're reattached. Being told, oh yeah, we can fix that, and then find out they can't do jack shit for you. That's really devastating. I know amputees. I know what they go through. I mean, we all have a mutual friend that's having phantom pain in the worst possible
I was just thinking about
place.
that.
I mean, that's a real thing. So, and regenerating those nerves, because I'm going through it with my, with my stroke. I mean, my hand will just start to fucking hurt for no freaking reason, because the nerves are trying to reroute around the damage in my arm from my stroke. So you don't say, "Oh, I can recurl your limb." No, you can't.
Well, and even worse now, I'm scrolling through your notes here again, and now there's a screenshot where she says, immortality is 100% possible if you understand the protocol.
Yeah, and this is the thing that drives me nuts. I have both her books. I'm 80% through book 1. I just got book 2 yesterday.
Okay, tell me she hired an editor, because I couldn't stand 3 paragraphs of that.
Okay, book 1 is kind of sort of book 2, from what I've glimpsed at, is a little better from my understanding. I may be wrong on this. She had a co-author. I haven't looked into the details about book 2, so but it's basically book 1. She gives kind of a background and talks about, the protocol and yada yada.
But she doesn't have a background. She doesn't know nothing.
Her personal background, and that's the thing that really drives me crazy, because one of my biggest pet peeves is when you're in a discussion with somebody, in a debate, and they're like, "Well, what's your qualifications?" And I'm not a huge one for puffing up your CV just to win a debate. Okay, yes, academic credentials are very important in certain fields. Learn some stuff enough to debate. Maybe not go against William Lane Craig per se, as a offhand example, but in a general Facebook debate, okay, or in-person debate. So I don't have an issue that she doesn't have any qualifications as far as academia, but I've spent, as I said this afternoon, just because I was bored, because I couldn't sleep, I did 10 memes debunking her science.
Well, this is the thing, like, and I keep thinking back to the Dr. Phil show, because that's the main thing I've watched, but her having qualifications becomes an issue when she's telling people, I can grow your fucking organs back.
Yeah,
like
she's taking...
Yeah, because he sat there and said, so do you have a science degree or a medical degree or like even a psychology degree or something, anything that would give you the authority to make such pronouncements? And her answer, no.
I've noticed in a couple postings that I didn't screenshot or anything for the show, but she'll make a claim based in science and will prove it beyond, or demonstrate beyond a shadow of a doubt that she is incorrect, wrong. Okay. Yeah. And she leaves it there and doesn't say anymore. Most of the time she goes silent, and then her right hand person goes to town and starts, slamming, quote, the trolls. But nowhere do they admit that they're wrong, even though you cite a source demonstrating how wrong you are. I mean, and I'm not talking over the top stuff. I'm talking basic chemistry.
Yeah. Okay? Okay. So Steve over there at Atheist News, he says, I'm a licensed phlebotomist. I would listen to him over that bitch. But he at least knows what blood does.
Yeah. And that's the thing. She has a very...
sorry. He says no, he means phrenologist. For those of you who don't know, phrenology is the Victorian study of the bumps on your head.
Okay.
How'd you going there, Steve? That's not. It wasn't very nice. Here I was all ready to listen to you because you draw blood, but all right.
But
Anyway.
her misinformation is very dangerous.
Well, and she also
does not take correction. She's actually come out and said that I'm being attacked by the media and by she's also being attacked by the woo-woo crowd, the holistic and the naturopaths, as well as allopathic medicine, because I'm right.
Well, and if people start to follow her woo, they might not follow their woo.
Well, I've discovered in of the past week is that
hello, she's calling.
It's my damn mother.
I was like, is she calling in?
No,
you're on the air.
I'm like, come on, I have a show going on. Let me just mute for a moment while I text her.
Let me find this. I can't see. Is that it?
Yeah, and she has there was that guy that died.
Yeah. Well, there's the whole issue of personal responsibility. She came out this late last night or early this morning. I don't remember what time exactly. Basically telling people, quit giving my book away. You don't have the authority and blah, blah. I mean, just in the last week, if you follow her at all, which I have actually been following her for a year. She's getting more and more delusional. And I made a comment the other day to my friends in group. I said, her actions right now are beginning to remind me of David Koresh, Jim Jones, and Applewhite, because she's getting these delusion of grandeur. I mean, she is right. Anybody that challenges me is wrong. If you happen to be like somebody like me who's just following to see, if you question 99 of 100 times, either her or her moderator will delete you.
Well,
and delete
the story of the one woman that came on Dr. Phil, who she said, I had 2 strokes that she is quite positive was caused by her drinking the sludge. And she said, when I started having health issues, I tried calling, I tried contacting online, and basically, and Jillian on the show was absolutely like rude to the woman and had no empathy towards her whatsoever. Was, you just didn't do it right. It must have been something that was your fault. Yes, and so when the woman pressed the issue, she was kicked out of the forums and denied the ability to contact anyone. And it was basically, oh, you're questioning the protocol, get out. We don't want you.
Yeah, and she sticks trolls on people too, doesn't she? Like her followers in that way.
It's hard to tell.
I don't know if she's doing it directly, like telling them to do it, but I know her followers are quite like intense.
Yeah, well, I have found in my trolling days, although 99 out of 100 times when I observe, I do not interact because I don't want to get kicked off. And then I'm like, oh, fuck, I have no way of watching to see what she's doing. As I said, I've been following Jillian for about a year. And so I haven't said anything, and it's been really, really hard not to, because I just... But it's pointless because Jillian's not going to listen, and based on the comments of some of her minions, they're not going to listen either.
Yeah.
So it's really... I would much rather, like what I've started the last day or two, is making these memes and just plastering them on Twitter and Facebook, just to get them out there, because I've noticed just in the last 3 days, I think the negative press that she's getting from, non sequitur. She got it from Miles. She got it from Dr. Phil, and all these, and this is why I want to stay focused on the cult part, because all they have done, the science
The sciencey part. Well, again, so there were 2 women on Dr. Phil who were followers of Jillian. And one of them, which I found to be exceptionally terrifying, had already started feeding the slop to her children, one of whom was only 2 years old.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Jillian has actually come out and stated that this is a substitute for formula and breast milk. And if you're worried about the fat content, just feed your child a little coconut milk or coconut oil. Okay, now that right there is beyond pale for me.
Yeah.
That's child abuse, pure and simple. Like, that is how you end up with a dead child.
That's one thing if you want to shit yourself to death, but you don't do that to your fucking kids.
And this is the thing, talking about empathy, what you had brought up. One guy in one thread I was watching goes, well, I don't understand why you guys even care about what's going on and why you care about this protocol. We're not hurting anybody, and what do you care about if somebody gets sick? It's like, because you fucknuts, you're telling people that it's okay to give to your children, or disabled people and cognitively disabled people that are unable to defend themselves.
And she's also preying on vulnerable people, like even going back to that Bruce Wilmot who had stage 4 pancreatic cancer. He was so desperate for anything to cure his illness that he was drinking this stuff all the time and ended up dying much sooner than expected. And he was emaciated, and his children, I believe, are suing her.
Yes.
Good.
There is
and they contacted the attorney general, but I'm not sure what the developments have been there. I don't think there has been anything really.
Yeah, the legal aspect is that, but, and this is very similar to what happened with Carrie Rivera. Not much was done, and then finally, after 6-7 years, they did some. Hopefully it won't get to that point. Now, going back to Bruce Wilmot, as you said, he had stage 4 pancreatic cancer. He was not in hospice prior to drinking the JJ juice, Jilly juice. Whether, I mean, you'd be a dumb fuck to say it didn't, but whether Jilly juice caused the issue, that's up to science to decide. But what really, really got my goat with the empathy is she went on Dr. Phil and basically said, it's not my fucking responsibility.
Yeah.
It's like, there's and this attitude of lack of personal responsibility.
She has no concept. She is arrogant beyond belief.
Yeah.
And has no sense of accountability, feels no responsibility for anything she's telling people to do. It's just, well, I'm right. So obviously, if it didn't work, you did something wrong.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a cult leader, too.
Very much so.
She's, and attitude is filtering down to her minions, because I've seen it time and time again where people, well, what do you care? Or, it's not our responsibility. These are grown adults. If they decide to do it, that's their problem. And this brings me to the whole, this cult attitude. I've mentioned the Boze Herrinton article before. I use it quite a lot, although there are other paradigms. And I'm actually right now doing another post using another paradigm, seeing how she fits in. And I have 7 of them. I don't think I'll do all 7, but I might do like 2 or 3 just to see where she fits, on these paradigms, because they're each a little bit different, but they're very similar. But if you remember with Boz, one of the first thing is opposing critical thinking. And basically with Epperly, she opposes all science and all medical information that is contrary to her protocol. And she's especially against higher education and academia. And what I found really interesting is going back to the regrowing the limbs. She uses stem cell research that is not definitive, being that it's in fucking mice. And last I looked, I'm not a mouse. And says, see, it's possible, but that's not what she's claiming. She's claiming her Jilly juice will allow you to regrow limbs, not stem cells. So
yeah, she's making you drink cabbage juice, not injecting stem cells into you.
Yeah, well, and there are people that are doing that. but
so she's basically saying, well, look, this other completely unrelated science is able to get there to some degree. Therefore, what I'm doing is true.
Yes, exactly.
Even though it's a completely different process, and it's only been done in like you said, in these like lab experiments, and not in humans, and a completely different science, and by actual scientists. And what's amazing is she keeps saying that these scientists are all liars or frauds. I know because my dad was in biotech, and so I guess her dad's a liar. But yet she's using this
as
science to as validation.
Yeah, she has one post. Deb, it's under. What's it under? Oh, it's under opposing critical thinking under point 1.
Okay, hang on.
It'll take me a while to read it, anyways. This is also her. This was in a blog post from the 22nd of September of this year.
What point is that? Is that like point
1? I don't know what page it is.
Okay, is that the one where she's dissing education?
Yes.
Oh, I had it up anyway. I was just going to say, though, it reminds me of, I used to work in the antique business, and people used to watch Antiques Roadshow all the damn time. And then they come into the store and be like, oh, look, I have one exactly like that. And like something that's valuable. And be like, it was exactly like that, except it's smaller and it's shaped differently and it's a different color and it's not signed by that person, but it's exactly like that. It must be worth millions of dollars. Like, no, it doesn't fucking work that way.
Yeah.
But anyway, here you go.
It says, don't think that bragging about your pre-med education at UC Berkeley is anything to be impressed about, especially where we are.
Here.
No, where we are in the first place, and no thanks to higher education, who was only giving you half a story, hence why vaccines, and it just rambles on. I can't even read that one. It's so fucked up. But yeah, she's fucking bashing, like Morgan said, she's bashing on education and academia, but uses it when it's convenient. So the critical thinking is just really not there. And
Steve makes a good point. He says it's proven to regrow starfish arms and salamander tails.
Yeah, exactly. And there is actually, and I only know this because I was looking into some stuff, and this is why I've put so much time into this, because I go off in these tangents. There is research using an enzyme, I believe, in salamander blood.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Salamanders have blood.
I'm starting to picture like the 3 crones from Macbeth all of a sudden.
Yeah. Ooh, that's a scary thought. But they're researching this enzyme as a means to stimulate possible regrowth, especially for skin tissue for burn victims. So there is science that supports, but we're nowhere near drinking salty cabbage juice to fucking regrow your arm or your leg or for organ transplants. And what's really funny is she says regrow organs. The problem is if you're an organ transplant person, you can't do it unless you have an extra one. So if you have a heart transplant, you're fuck shit out of luck. Now, if you have both kidneys and one fails, oh, yep, we can regrow it. Because she wouldn't want the organ to stop while it's regrowing. It's like her logic is just is really bizarre, and it brings another thing as far as critical thinking. She's very, and I've discovered this today, so I'm a little weak on it, but she's very conspiratorial. She has a very conspiratorial mindset.
She hasn't met a conspiracy she didn't like.
Again, another trait of cult leaders, this paranoia that everybody's out to get you and everybody's trying, it's a big conspiracy against you.
Here's a good example of that from Best Screenshots here. So this is a post somebody else made to, it looks like on one of her videos. Possibly if she posted some of the Dr. Phil video, it just says, Dr. Phil is counter intel. I knew you were legit the moment he had you on his show. He's there to make you look bad. He wants to scare people out of taking your juice. Okay, well, that part's true. Well, by emphasizing the fact
he should be
not an MD as if that even really matters. He is just part of the system that wants to keep us all sick and stupid.
Well,
yes, Dr. Phil is the machine.
What's really, really obvious to me, anyways, although she states this in her book, she used to listen to Con Nut Radio. Now, I'm going to assume she didn't specifically state that it was AJ, Alex Jones. And she made this post concerning chemtrails. Chemtrails could be one big vaccine. You have recourse, understand, and know the balancing forces in your body and environment. Yeah. Okay.
Wait, so when my dad was flying planes, he was vaccinating people?
Yes.
So, I'm sorry. Oh, Lord.
This is the I am right post I was talking about. But yeah, this is the posting where she kept, I'm right. I was like, no, you're not. Why am I attacked? Because I am right. Why is the establishment trying, it should say, to discredit me? Because I am right. Why do you think the holistic world is attacking me and the allopathic world? Because I am right. They are exploiting, this line is funny. They are exploiting vulnerable people, turning them into poster children, all the while destroying them at the same time with negative elements. And it's all about the chemistry, baby, which you know absolutely no fucking thing about.
It's all about the chemistry, baby. I want that made into a t-shirt.
Ooh, I actually think there is one.
That wouldn't surprise me.
I'd have to go back through my links again, but going on, another point that Boz makes in his little paradigm is that there's an isolation of members and penalizing them for leaving. As Deb mentioned on the Dr. Phil show, 2 women that were stroke victims. They were ostracized from the group because they questioned the protocol. I've seen her over the course of the past year. She will delete and block anybody who even slightly disagrees, although they seem to have eased up on that lately because I have found some dissenting comments peppered throughout. Yeah, if you even slightly disagree with her methods, see you bye. and she has a love of threatening lawsuits under libel, slander, and defamation. She has no leg to stand on because truth beats them all. And going back to her dispute with the Ohio Attorney General, one of the she received a letter from them asking her to substantiate her claims. She can't. She claims she has the science. There's a paper. I just downloaded it yesterday after I discovered she actually had a paper. And a friend in the group that I'm in is actually a scientist, is picking through the paper. And he highlighted a discussion he was having with somebody who said that, the science in this paper that Jillian wrote is correct. And so he challenged the guy, well, pick out 3 points that you think are correct, and got nothing from him. So he goes, well, here, I'll pick this point out. According to your paper, it says this. Well, here's the actual science. So it's all, from a science standpoint, all bunkum. And part of the problem when you try to debunk somebody like Epperly is that, like, for me, I have enough science that I could get myself in trouble. So I sometimes I have to, I have friends on my lists that I can go to that are scientists, Professor Stephen being one. So it's not, but she doesn't seem to utilize resources that are out there. So, she makes these claims, but she has no backing for them. Or she'll misrepresent what a study is saying, or her minions will. So it's, typical cult bullshit. And this one,
and she's making money off of this, isn't she?
She's not making a lot from reports I've seen.
Going to be my next question. I mean, even though it sort of deviates from the list, was what is she getting out of this?
Last year, according to reports I've seen, she made $6,600. So she's not getting rich off this yet. So I don't. It's not a money thing. It's all ego. She playing armchair psychiatrist. I'm gonna say she's very narcissistic, but of course, cult leaders are. So they go hand in hand. But yeah, she doesn't seem to be, according to what I've seen, making money off this. And she does, as far as I know, she does not work outside the home. This is her shtick.
So is she married or have a spouse?
I don't want to get. Yeah, I'm kind of iffy in going into that because I really don't like bashing family if I don't have.
No, it's not that. I'm just like, as somebody's got to be supporting her.
Yeah, she is, as far as I know, married. I should say still. There appears to be some strife there. As I said, some of her postings are really bizarre concerning procreation.
Well, okay, so Trish just brought that up.
Is childless by choice, but my speculation, based on what I've read, is that she doesn't want children. Her husband, who she's only been married to 7 years, probably does. And it's causing strife because of her adoption and some of the issues she had surrounding that. Understanding why she was put up for adoption and sent to America and all that, bullshit. There's a lot of mishmash in there that, I mean, from a psychological standpoint, I think that area is very messy.
Yeah.
But she lately has been lashing out because of this procreation. She's been lashing out at the LGBTQ community very badly. But as a cow, she's entitled to her opinion, as crappy as it may be. And I'm in the process of collecting various postings to try to conglomerate them just so people can see it. They're not pleasant, but it all comes down to the need for. She has this very warped view of what a mutation is. I'm assuming she means genetic mutation, and it gets into, guess what, people? The fucking Nephilim.
Oh, Jesus.
She's
Well,
I was
before we get
scrolling through her feed. Yes.
Before we get into that, just quickly, because Triss popped over to her feed just a few minutes ago, and they said, "Oh God, I just went to her page, and there's a rambling post from last night about sex and kids, and where she replaces the vowels with punctuation marks."
Oh yeah, well yeah, she has a really bizarre take on sex, procreation primarily, and sex and sexuality, and being LGBT is a mutation. As I said, she gets that from the Nephilim. I was scrolling through her page and a fucking Trey Smith video popped up on Nephilim, and I was like, holy fuck, I can't get away from it. But I won't go into that. But yeah, she has this really bizarre, she thinks gay people and trans people are mutants. And this whole parasite thing, it's, as I said, it gets so bizarre, like trying to sort it out. This is why I'm trying to figure out which direction I want to go in my next post after I get this one posted. Is like, okay, do I do that? But if I do that, then I got to do this first. And I'm trying to piece, listening to her is very painful. I'd rather listen to hours of Alex Jones. Yeah, that's saying a lot.
Oh, Triss is like, wait a minute, we're mutants? Are we the X-Men?
Yeah, but what's really bizarre is she's talking mutations, and she's not even using the term properly.
No.
And she says stuff about mutations you learn about that you have from 23andMe, and I was like, I know they can tell you like, oh, how much caffeine are you likely to like consume, like genetic dispositions or like lactose intolerance, and I'm like, that's not. I wouldn't call that a mutation necessarily.
It does tell you if you have, say, the extra gene that predisposes you to like breast cancer, and it tells you like,
oh, she goes off on the BRCA. Oh,
yeah, it's like, do you have the genes that make you more susceptible to, say, Parkinson's or something like that?
Well, what it comes down to, because
that is there.
Talking about it in group, and in my opinion, it goes to the whole. Sorry for bringing this up again, the Nephilim thing. It's the us versus them mentality.
Because you got to have that if you got a good cult going.
Yes.
Everybody's out to get us because we have a truth.
Yeah, and I'm perfect, you're not. I'm on this protocol, I'm drinking this, I'm completely, well, I don't think she claims she's healed. Obviously she can't be. She had a fucking rash that she was fighting a couple weeks ago. But it's that us versus them mentality that's interwoven within the Nephilim doctrine and those that are proponents. Now, she does not appear to be religious as far as the Abrahamic faiths go, but she is into a lot of woo-woo. I've seen posts on her page concerning psychics and astronomy and stuff like that.
She's gonna tell you our horoscope too, right?
Yeah, but nothing consistent. She's like picking.
Well, I think that's more for her followers, like so she can like try and get that hook in, and I think it's intentional, like whether she believes it or not, which I don't know. But I mean, like you said, she's not making any money off of it yet, but I think that she might also see an opportunity perhaps with like the InfoWars nonsense and all that stuff that's going on. It is kind of lucrative right now. And yeah, I mean, she did get to go. I mean, she went on the Dr. Phil show.
Really bizarre is that one of my friends did a Who Is, and certain URLs, I don't exactly remember how this all works, but it was actually registered by Jilly in 2012. But she didn't start this until 2015-ish, 16-ish. So as I said, there's just so many inconsistencies in this whole shebang. It's really hard to track because it's like, like she's picking all this stuff, and like you said, I think some of it is for a hook, but she's taking anything that agrees with her line of thinking, which is typical, and ignoring the rest. Even stuff that is proven, and I don't like using that term, but stuff we have solid evidence for, i.e. eating 55,000 milligrams of salt is not a good thing, and totally ignores it. Oh, well, Himalaya salt is special. And no, it's fucking salt. So that disconnect, that critical thinking is lacking. And
hey, Morgan, if you want a job, here's another screenshot from her. If you're a lawyer who's on my protocol, willing to go toe-to-toe with people who are obviously breaking the law, you can totally make a name for yourself and be famous and vindicate everyone that's ever made a revolutionary protocol who is getting backlash from the competition. There you go.
I bet she'd be a lovely client who would absolutely be worth my time, and I would charge her out the butt to deal with her. And if I didn't bother with it and was that desperate, but if you have she only made $6,000, she can't afford me.
Yeah, she wants you to drink legs too.
That's how she tries to silence her critics, is by threatening to sue them, and it's been pointed out to her numerous times when she's made this threat.
She'd be a nightmare client.
I've only seen 2 where she specifically named people, and I don't remember the names, so they're not important anyways. And
I'm sorry, Steve says charge her out the butt. Another pun.
Thanks, Steve. But it's been pointed out to her that she wouldn't even get the case to court because truth is the ultimate defense for defamation and slander and libel, right, Morgan? I mean,
yeah, truth is the best defense to that. If you can prove that, I mean, there's also you can like discount certain elements of the charge, but under common law, but won't go into that. But yeah, truth is generally that's what you're told is like the best defense, because if it's true, then you don't even have to bother with all the other stuff.
Right. So I mean, none of her stuff. Well, I shouldn't say none. Most of what I have read is not correct. I mean,
yeah, saying to take a bunch of salt, like that's scientifically proven. Like all I need to do is put a doctor on the stand and say, "Hey, is this good for you?" And the doctor would be like, "No," and be like, "Okay, thank you." And then I would get summary judgment against her, and probably she'd have to pay my legal fees if I were representing somebody who were either suing her or probably more likely defending somebody being sued by her, which I think would be a much preferable thing for me because I would never represent her, like ever. Sounds like she'd be a nightmare client anyway, and she would like be one of those clients that just harasses you and does not make it worth the time or the money, which is why you probably have to get.
Yeah.
Her arrogance is through the roof. She thinks she's right no matter what. Mm-hmm. Like, for instance, like, again, Dr. Phil, I mean, he's a psychologist doctor, but still, he's got a doctorate and he knows a lot of shit. And she's like, anyone taking cues from a doctor who's balding with diabetes deserves whatever they wish upon me.
Yeah.
What the hell?
Yeah.
Just because he has diabetes and a receding hairline, Jesus, that's rough. Like
that goes to point 3, which is she emphasizes special doctrines outside of, well, scripture. This was based towards the Bible, so outside of, we'll just say, general science. And her biggest thing, as we've repeated oft, is anybody that's against her is wrong. Only she's right. But it's this elimination of parasites via the waterfalls, which we won't describe again.
But that's assuming there's any there in the first place. Like, it's not like she tested anyone to show that there are actually parasites. She's just assuming that there are some.
Well, and it's most likely undigested food. And just so you know, and I will be posting this link later, there is a video. I think it's 17 minutes long. It might be a little longer, which she said talks about waterfalls versus diarrhea and how they're not the same.
Oh.
And basically, it's bizarre. That's all I'm going to say. But
I thought this would be perfectly rational, Beth.
Oh, yeah. Well, Steve says
it's like
Steve says he's bald, so I guess his opinions are invalidated. I'm like, yes.
Her whole notion is based on the diarrhea is caused by a precursor such as food poisoning.
And she claims that you don't lose electrolytes with waterfalls.
Yeah, don't go there with me. That's part of my problem when I had my second stroke.
Right.
Yeah, my electrolytes were so fucked up, it was beyond belief.
Dr. Phil was like, "Are you fucking serious?"
Yeah, her medical knowledge is
non-existent.
Well, not even non-existent. It is vilely dangerous.
Yeah.
I mean,
what is the term? She knows just enough to be dangerous.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, what's really, I don't even know how to term it anymore, describing her, but she has I think it was it would have to be the BuzzFeed article. BuzzFeed did a really good article on her and filled with nice quotes, and she goes, going back to the special doctrine, we're using a different context in my world. And the manifestations from the salt, whatever the fuck that means, and the accessing of the nutrients from the cabbage is going to give you a different context of what the symptoms are. So, and I found this interesting. So, essentially, what it is, we're trying to turn an atheist into a Christian.
Well, they certainly were all words.
Yeah. She is word salad galore. I mean,
so she's what would happen if Alex Jones and Deepak Chopra had a love child.
Yes.
And then you just threw Scrabble tiles.
Yeah. Oh shit.
I think even at my worst with talking and stuff, I don't even think I come out with that much word salad. And it's funny because
when I use words correctly,
yeah, I just have trouble remembering what the fuck they mean. But yeah, the other day I made a post in the group getting some input on what I'm presenting tonight because this is all new territory for me. Well, as far as with her, but I wanted to get people who have been following her more intently than I have to see what they thought about it. And one lady goes, "Is English your first language?" I hope you're not a writer. And I'm like, yeah, well, I am, sorta. And she goes, and when she asked the English your first language, I go, yeah. Because I realized she was being a dick. And
somebody asked me that once too, and I'm like, it's the only language I speak. I mean, I could try my French, but it's actually pretty shitty. You probably wouldn't.
But it's like, oh, writing is barely understandable. And by then I realized she was trolling me. And I was going to say, well, if you can't read mine, how the fuck do you read Jillian's? Because hers is worse than mine. I basically just said at the end of it, I was like, you know, do that here. Before you start criticizing somebody, whether it's constructive or not, you might want to learn a little bit about them. I'm a stroke victim, so my brains are a little fucked up, you know, and words don't always come out right. That's why I have software that helps me with that. And I did actually run my stuff through the software. It's like, and I said, and by the way, Facebook is not a final product.
Yeah.
Like, and it pretty much shut her up right there. But it was like, so it's like people have trouble reading my stuff, but they can read Jillian's.
Oh, get this. So there's another screenshot here. And it's rambling about a bunch of different shit, but the last line is the one that got me. It says, I purposely committed a logical fallacy intentionally because the science does not lie.
What?
That's what it says. I purposely committed a logical fallacy intentionally because the science does not lie.
Again, those are all words, but none of them mean what she thinks they do.
I'm in a couple different groups relating to Jillian, and in one of the groups, I don't even remember which one now, that comment about what the fuck does that even mean, or she's just throwing these words out, is
like
pretty much everybody in the groups make that comment. It was like, what?
The only reason I don't think she's using the Deepak Chopra generator is because she doesn't use the word quantum. Otherwise, I'd be like,
I'm waiting for that to come up, to be honest.
Otherwise,
don't tell her about it.
I'm not going to.
She just goes to the website, generates a bunch of quotes together, and slaps up a post. And throws the word That's what. Oh, now I got it. No, she is using it. She just puts it through find and replace and changes every instance of quantum with protocol. That's what it is.
You could possibly be right on that, because I mean, we all sit in the groups. I mean, granted, it's on Facebook, and we're just like, we just sit there and stare at our screens like.
Okay, well, I have not seen yet this phenomenon that Triss was talking about, where she replaces the vowels with punctuation.
Oh yeah, let's see if I can do this.
The fuck is with that?
What it is she knows that some of us, and I'm not, you know, I don't care if she knows that I'm trolling her page. She knows people are trolling her page. She knows people are trolling her book page, and we are reporting posts. I do not report posts unless there's actual harm being committed to, especially a child or someone that's incapacitated. So I don't report posts unless you cross my line, and my line's very high. But other people, they do what they morally feel obligated to do. Most of the time we report her science posts, but her LGBT posts and her posts about procreation, etc., are really beginning to tick people off, especially the LGBT posts. We do have a couple of people that are transgender in our groups, so they're not very happy right now, and I'm trying to figure out which angle to take. Triss, this might be something for you. So she started putting like a 3 for an E or a pound sign, you know, scrambling her words, thinking she's avoiding the Facebook algorithm for thinking that's what's. She was banned not too long ago for hate speech.
Right.
Pathos. I have the article. I'll post it. I may have already posted it, but I'll post it again. And she's like, she thinks that the only manner that she will get banned is by the man, you know, Facebook. You know, the elite. It's like, no, fuck nuts, so we're reporting it.
What you were talking about with her weird ass shit about procreation too. There was one post that you had showed me where she was going on about how she was disappointed that she got her period because it means that. So what she says is that if your body is capable of reproduction, that means that you're still on a death trajectory.
Yeah,
That-
she's obsessed with death. And well, part of it is she thinks we can be immortal. We can live for 400 years, and this ties into the Noah Nephilim bullshit. But
so the fact that she has a period means that she's not healthy to her.
she believes that females having periods are mutants, and that
That's a common incel belief and like other stuff. I see that a lot in like these like men's rights quote unquote groups and stuff like that too. It's like it's unnatural and you can just stop it.
Yeah, they think, and when you restrict your diet or over exercise, a lot of our gymnasts on the U.S. gymnast teams don't have their periods until they're done being gymnasts. They're delayed. There's a term for it, and I can't think of the term off the top of my head.
I mean, yeah, and birth control stops it, but I doubt she approves of that because Big Pharma.
Yeah.
No, she's against pretty much anything. Pretty much everything. But yeah, she has this really, and as I said, I think this goes to her not wanting children and maybe her husband wanting children. And as I said, there appears to be
feeling the need to come up with all kinds of batshit woo-woo to explain why she's not maybe okay.
Based on certain posts, it doesn't sound like the hubby is 100% on board with this as far as drinking the juice.
Yeah.
According to some postings by Jillian, he has drank some of it, but how often, I don't know. I like cabbage, but I will not make cooked cabbage because I live in an apartment building above the restaurant where I work. And if you've ever smelled cabbage while it's cooking, or when you make sauerkraut, it is the most god-awful, horrendous smell. You might as well shove a baby's diaper up your nose.
Yeah.
How bad it is. God damn
it. I have a hard time believing that she wouldn't have badgered the poor bastard into like
I personally, I think in some ways she is, and I think that's part of the Discord. And this whole
just the way her manner was on the few things that I've seen, she does not take no for an answer, and she's a bully. She is an absolute bully.
Yeah. Well, she's a pure narcissist. I mean, I've never seen someone so much. There's a scale they use for narcissism and where you would fall, and I want to say it goes 1 to 10. 1 being the highest, and I think she's like a 1. I mean, she's like way up there. But yeah, and that's the thing. She does it because, part of being a cult leader is seeking inappropriate loyalty to their leader. It's my way or the highway. As you said, she bullies or appears to bully. And, she had this one screed. If you want to scroll down, it's right under number 4, Deb. If you know my protocol, you would not have any questions whether or not you should do the protocol.
That
in the hospital.
There it is. Yep.
If you're in the hospital.
I'm thinking if you're in the hospital, it might be too late at that point.
Yeah. This is when you need to purchase my book, and she repeats that phrase over and over, and put your money where your mouth is, regardless of how busy you are. The reason why you are where you are is because you never took the time to reinforce your immune system, which, by the way, you really don't want to do, because if you reinforce or boost your immune system, you're setting yourself up for a precursor to autoimmune disorder. So, another bit of science that she gets fucked up. Even with my protocol in your world within the last year, I have no clue what that means. Everybody's busy, but we also prioritize, and if health is not a priority, your life will reflect that. Now, part of this screed also relates to the whole Kavanaugh mess. She's made some very victim-blamey postings, shrouded in terminology, not necessarily naming names, but it's fucking blatant obvious.
Well, just by looking at the way she treated the stroke victims, where, well, if you had a stroke, then you weren't doing it properly. It's your fault. So of course she's going to blame everybody else for anything that happens to them.
She had one posting that has quite a few people really upset, and there's really not much we can do about it because, as I said, she's allowed her opinion. And really, unless she threatens somebody, there's really not a whole hell you can do with Facebook. But yeah, she goes on the same day. She, as far as this, bullying, if you can argue both sides of a point effectively, strategically, and convincingly, then you actually read my information, then you have made a conscious choice to think differently. And it goes on. It's a pretty long screed. So
that's the one that closed out with, I purposely committed a logical fallacy.
I've seen that. Yeah, and this is the thing. Okay, I have read her book, one of them. I have read quite a bit of material off her website. I have read her I have both pages that I read. And I don't want to argue her points effectively because they're fucking bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
So that line saying you must be able, she goes on in another posting where you do have to be able to argue it. It's like, no, I don't. I know your side of the argument and it's junk.
Yep.
But I don't need to be able to support it. I mean, it's like, yeah, in a debate class or a debate group, and I've been in two, yes, you could be it'd be like me being in a debate group and them assigning me homosexuality is against God's word.
Right.
That wouldn't be a really good one, to put me on based on the fact that I'm gay. But you know what? I actually can argue that side. Why? Because I know all the talking points. Yeah. But that doesn't mean that it makes me an effective debater other than knowing your adversary. I don't have to be able to argue.
Yeah. And just so you know, we've only got about 15 minutes left, so if there's any more like major key points you want to hit on the list, we should probably get to them.
We're getting there. The next one, 0.5, there's a screenshot on that one too. This one is just a fucking doozy, and this was in last week too. Basically, it's dishonoring the family unit, which is a key within cults, separation, shunning, yada yada. And basically, it comes down: you don't need or want your family. You have me, Miss Jillian. I know all, I see all, and I can provide.
I'd rather cuddle with a porcupine.
Yeah, I can fulfill your every expectation. Well, the other day, that was me summarizing how I think she thinks. The other day, she made a post. It was a share. And she goes, I love this. Sometimes leaving the nest and leaving the people that you know you the best, it can be the best thing to do because it allows you to grow further, blah, 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 blah. The post, the meme is, if you want to make it in life, move away from your home, move away from your hometown. A wise man once told me support doesn't come from familiar faces. Well, who the fuck does it come from then? That's my question.
Probably some sort of deity. Wow.
Yeah. She basically wants you to fuck your family.
Well, not literally.
Yeah, not literally. Thank you. And
she hasn't gotten to incest yet.
Yeah.
Well, doesn't she basically say that sex means if you want sex, then you're on a death trajectory as well?
Yeah, and as I said, that is so bizarre to even figure out.
Like, that goes beyond, like, asexual is totally fine, but this is like bizarro world.
Yeah, I mean, I'm asexual. I could give two flying fucks about it. But it's like, because at first that's what I thought. Well, maybe she's asexual. And it's like, no, this is too fucking bizarre even for me. It's like, yeah.
But if you think about it, what tends to happen now, she's a little different in this because she's not looking to fuck all of her followers the way a lot of cult leaders are. But almost all cult leaders, as the group progresses more and more towards craziness or more craziness, they do tend to get to limiting the sexual activity of their followers. Well, so, like, Koresh went and said, no, the women can only have sex with me, and when I say so. It's happening in the FLDS right now, where they're Warren Jeffs has decreed that married couples can no longer have sex with each other, and he will decide if and when anyone gets to procreate and that sort of stuff. So it does follow along with the cultic model.
That goes to point 6, and according to the Herrington thing, it's crossing biblical boundaries of behavioral, basically, versus sexual purity and all that. And when I was originally outlining this, I'm like, it really doesn't fit this point at all. So part of the reason I posted this in the one group is because I was really stumped on this. And then one of my friends in the group posted this summary, and this is a quote from her. I think she fits point 6 wonderfully. She has said procreation means you are on the death trajectory, as you mentioned, Deb, that homosexuals are mutants and are similar to pedophiles and those who engage in bestiality.
By the way, fuck you, Jill.
Yeah. Now that she's been intimate with her husband again, and this is a point I haven't found yet, it's like the first time virginal. Notice Jillian's idea of personal ownership is not acknowledging that she is hurting someone, but her idea of personal ownership is to accept the blame for being victimized and then excuse the abuser because they are demons. And this goes to her belief parasites cause personality changes, to be simplistic. So yeah, originally I didn't think she fit point 6, but as I look at DR's explanation and analysis of it, and I'm trying to find more screenshots that support this idea, but I see it. So she's basically done a Jeff's, but in a really bizarre way.
Well, if you think about it, so I mean, she's got to be messing up her own health rather nastily. Well, and
personally, I don't think she's drinking it.
Okay.
Not in a normal sense. I think she has.
Okay, but total speculation here. She's going on about how she's almost gotten rid of her period and that she's only spotting and all. That's not healthy. Okay, so we know there's an issue, at least that way. total speculation, but if she's talking about not being intimate with her husband for long stretches, maybe she is asexual to some degree. But the idea is, well, if I'm not having it, then my followers shouldn't be having it either, which is, I think, where Warren Jeffs is coming from, because he's stuck in jail unless he's made bunkmates with the other Jesus. He ain't getting any, and he wants to exert control over his followers and keep them in line while he's in prison. That's what he's doing. Oh, what? No one else has sex.
Yeah. Well, right now I lost my thought. Shit.
Sorry.
No, it's all right. I had it and just went. Personally, I don't think she is drinking the juice.
Okay.
She has, in my opinion, and again, I'm playing armchair psychologist, a form of bulimia, possibly orthorexia, the clean eating shit. And this is something I need to look into more. In fact, I'm going to send an email to a friend of mine who is a shrink.
But if you think about it, so not all bulimics do vomiting.
No,
there are many who use laxatives.
Yes.
Well, what is her stuff? A giant, nasty ass laxative.
And she talks about feeling better after purging, and when in her idea of purging waterfalls. Because if you and I don't mean to be graphic here, but if you look at her teeth, she definitely is not puking, because she does not have any of the signs. I've looked at her hands; she doesn't have any of the signs on her hands, because for those of you that don't know, generally purgers will use their middle finger and make themselves gag, and they will get a red mark on their hands, basically from the acid is burning their
and that frequency of acid will start to destroy your teeth.
Yes, and that's why I say her teeth do not show those signs and her hands do not. But going back to destroying her own health, the purging her way eventually will, if she's doing it on a daily cycle, which I don't think she's doing, you will not have an asshole left.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too.
Have a lower GI tract left either, because that acid will, I mean, salt water is an acid.
Yeah. Well, but this goes back to typical cultic behavior too, because how many of cult leaders actually follow their own bullshit? Very few.
Baby.
Yeah, like look at, again, back to Warren Jeffs. He had all these rules, like you weren't supposed to wear red, and you weren't supposed to listen to music, and you weren't supposed to do this and that. And when he was arrested, he was driving a red SUV, and it was full of like MP3 players and all of this technological shit that he said that his followers should not be indulging in because it was bad for them. And yet he does it. Yeah. So, and virtually all of these leaders end up being like that. Once they get the power and the ability to do what they want, they stop following all their own rules, because let's be honest, who wants to do all that shit if you don't have to?
Yeah. What's really scary, I mean, I compare it to my one friend who's an author that I interviewed when I was still into the paranormal, and he started out initially with like maybe 200 followers. He's now up to about 7. She at one point, before she deleted one group page, had over 60,000.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, so this woman's...
Let's hope that was a shit ton of trolls.
Well,
yeah, I wonder how much is that? Like people who read the BuzzFeed thing and were like, I need to follow this woman because she's a loon.
Yeah, well, you think about it. I've been following her for a year, at least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
a little longer, because she popped up on my radar about the same time that Teal Swan did, and she's another loon that we'll get into one of these days. I need to recover from this though. But yeah, I mean, she's got, and Teal Swan has like over 100K followers. So the influence is there, and sadly, the internet is spawning these types of things, which makes it scary. And this is why I always laugh when people say that atheism is a cult. I'm sorry, I'm getting pissed off because it's like I have one follower on Blogger. I have 13 on YouTube, but I haven't done anything in like 2 years because of my
because if you're a cult, you gotta have a doctrine. So what's the atheist doctrine? Nobody's ever able to tell me that.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like, even for Beyond the Trailer Park, we have what, 200 subscribers?
We're a couple hundred, but we get a bit more of that on Spreaker. So
yeah, so it's like, dude,
yeah,
this lady had, I don't know, I didn't look at the numbers today, I should have, had 60,000. She probably maybe has, well, say 6 to 10 now, because most of those people I think were trolls, or not trolls, but people like me. I'm a troll. Yeah, trolls. But
you're an observer.
Yeah, I'm an observer. I'm actually a troll because I do not. I try to not interact, because I made that mistake when I was following Carrie Rivera. She started saying some really lunacy, and I opened my mouth and I was banned like that. I mean, like, wasn't even.
Well, that reminds me of Morgan. Remember when Jeremiah joined the Flat Earth dating group?
Yes.
Yes.
He tried to pretend to be a flat earther, and he said like 2 things, and they banned him. And he's like,
well, he wasn't even like. Yeah, he wasn't even like saying like y'all are dumb or anything like that. Like he just like
he was trying to pretend to be a flat earther and like agree.
He was genuinely trying to, and then they banned him because I guess they were like, "All right, this guy's trying too hard" or something, or they probably looked him up and saw like who he was. But yeah, I loved that. That was my favorite thing. It lasted for such a short period of time, but thank you for reminding me of that, because that was an amazing time.
If any of you decide to observe, my suggestion is create an alternative account.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, the last point from Bob's thing, so we can wrap it up soon, is separation from the church. Basically, this is so obvious, shun deletions. But the shunning has a really interesting aspect, in my opinion, because she made this post. This is from I think this July. I wish they would put what year it was. So, but full moon is going to trigger a lot. Oh God, I should have pre-read these. These are horrible. Full moon is going to trigger a lot in people. If you are on the protocol, stay away from anyone close to you not on the protocol, or consciously ignore intentional triggers. That's another word she uses in a really bizarre way. Recognize it, ignore, drink the juice, i.e. Jilly juice. Don't go there with people. In other words, don't. No Appalachia. Which is weird because she put out a post, basically, I think I already mentioned, she was like, "Don't you fucking give my book away. It's me. Everything's gotta go through me." But anyways, parasites raging, laying eggs, trying to draw in the negative energy. She says that a lot too, about energy. Stay away from detoxes and herbs. What the fuck do you think you're doing?
I don't want to eat no nasty food.
Yeah.
Got no herbs and seasonings.
No, it's supposed to be stuck in the cabbage juice, don't you know?
Will destroy you at the same time. lowering your defenses. I love how she says, stay away from the detoxes and herbs. Now, salt isn't an herb. It is technically a spice. But yeah.
But now, when she talks about
garlic, because it's a natural, holistic antibiotic.
When she says, stay away from anyone close to you who's not on the protocol, that to me sounds like suppressive people.
Yeah, I mean, this has got Scientology influence written all over it. And Werner Erhard, EST, she went to his school, and EST has a Scientology aspect to it. And I wish I could remember how Deanna explained this to me, but I will be putting something out about it. But it's really interesting because, as I said, Gary Rivera with Genesis 2 Church, which she was a bishop of, with Jim Humble, was also influenced by Scientology. So it's like, and when I started this, what was really bizarre, and I think this is what's important as far as for anybody listening, excuse me, is that religion is not the only thing we fight. Because, I mean, as Epperly has demonstrated quite well, cults are a big issue too. So, I mean, I guess in a way, my weird obsession with following the fringe is paying off. Because it's like, I mean, I put her in a file of keep an eyeball on. So I would occasionally go over there, and it's like, and it just, I didn't even know about the Dr. Phil episode until after the interest was re-peaked last week. And it was you, Deb, that told me about it. And I forgot what precipitated it, but she had done something that ended up on my newsfeed. And I'm like, holy fuck. And I went through, I had a bunch of articles already saved, to go back to if I ever decided to do a show. But yeah, it's like, religion is not, isn't the only issue. Separation of church and state is not the only issue. I mean, cults are just as dangerous. And in the case with Epperly, because she has no critical thinking. She twists science horrendously. She's endangering not only children, but, adults that are, incapacitated, making these outlandish claims of regrowing limbs and living to 400 years. Fuck that. I don't want to live to be 400. I barely want to live to be 65.
There's that wonderful Queen song, Who Wants to Live Forever?
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. It's like, could you imagine having to drink that shit every day for 400 years?
I'd rather be fat and die.
Yeah, exactly.
Give me a fucking cheeseburger.
Well, that's what I said to my doctor years ago when I was first diagnosed with diabetes. I said to her, I said, if you can't, I said, don't suggest, this low carb Atkins bullshit. I tried it. I felt like I was eating sandpaper and sawdust. I said, if you can, to the point where I can eat the food that I eat now, then fuck it. I don't want to take these pills.
Yeah.
And it's like, now I happen to be, cross vegan, vegetarian. I don't really eat red meat. I don't eat any red meat, really, occasionally. But it's like, I don't eat bad, so I knew the medication should be enough to control my diabetes, and so far it has been. And I haven't really changed anything. I'm, but to have to be forced to drink something every day so I could live to be 400, I just don't think I could do it.
No.
I have a hard
Especially if it causes waterfalls. Could you imagine
no.
100 years of that? Like,
Yeah.
no. Well, ladies, anything else we want to add before we start wrapping up here?
I would say if Steve, this is specifically to you and anybody else that has a blog or does any type of video, do a show, do a bit about her. The more people we can get putting out the bullshit, the better. Regretfully, the law seems to be at a standstill. I don't know whether it's because they can't do anything yet. But we drove Carrie Rivera underground 3 years ago and really barely a peep out of her since in the MMS bullshit. So let's do this to Jillian. And I know people are starting to get to her. Some of her reactions were blatantly towards Miles Powers. Well, Dr. Phil really got under her skin, and she's got a whole video.
And just quickly to add to that, so you mentioned non sequitur earlier. That's our friends Kyle and Steve. They had her lined up to do non sequitur about 2-3 weeks ago. And she had committed to the show, whole 9 yards. And at the last minute, she pulled out and started posting nasty shit about non sequitur on her pages. Basically, she agreed to go on, and then she must have gone and looked at the show, which honestly, like, they have all kinds of viewpoints, and they talk to flat earthers all the damn time. And they try to be, even though they think they're absolutely Looney Tunes, they try and be respectful of them. Now, they will call out dangerous stuff, but they certainly aren't. I mean, I don't think they were going to be any worse than Dr. Phil, but I think she realized that they weren't just going to sit there and kiss her ass for an hour or two. And she decided, no, I'm not going to do it. And unfortunately, I would have liked to have had one or both the guys on to give us more detail about that, but they're actually live on their show right now, so that wasn't going to work out. Unfortunately,
I know last night Bullionator
Dave, yeah,
did a show. So the more people we can get,
we're looking at you, Steve and Triss.
Yes, the more people we can get that either blogs, does a show, whatever. If you need information, I can get you I can try to get you what you need. I will give you my notes. I don't care who uses them. This information is going on my blog. I'll say in the next 24 hours. I haven't slept in 2 days, so I don't know how much longer I'll last. But
I got a good one over on Ronald over on Spreaker chat says, Dr. Fill your brain up with shit.
Yeah, I mean, and like you said in the beginning, I mean, I'm not a fan of Dr. Phil's. I have a hard time with a lot of it.
He's got issues.
Yeah, he's got issues, and I mean, being a mental patient, I have a hard time with how he deals with things. But I felt I did not watch the entire episode because I really did not want to bias myself for tonight. Right. So I'm probably going to junk out on all the videos that I haven't watched that have come out in the last week. But yeah, there's I mean, you can Google Jillian's name, it'll show up. You can Google Jilly Juice, you'll get a bunch. Articles are already saved. I have, you guys are welcome to it, but please, if you can, just say, hey, this shit's, the more we can get out there, the better, because I really, really think that, especially Miles' episode that he did the other day, I think it's really pushing her over the edge. and it's starting to show in some of her postings, and I've commented it about it in our groups, and a lot of people agree that the pressure is starting to get to her. I think she was expecting that, you know, we just would all believe her. It's like, yeah, no. So yeah, if you can, you know, I can get you information. I have resources to get information is if there's something specific you want. I have a bunch of screenshots and memes already made up. I can, if you want into some of the anti-groups, I can get you the links for those. So there's a lot of resources out there, but hey, she's crazy. And I find it funny because I have papers to prove I am. She's just fucking crazy.
Anything you want to add, Morgan?
Man, this is just wild. It's just absolute. Like I remember reading that BuzzFeed article, which BuzzFeed, you know, for all the like jokes about their listicles and all that stuff, like they do some really great investigative journalism. So yeah, definitely check that out, I'd say. But because it is a really, really great article on her. But yeah, just the whole like word salad and using words, but you know, it's like here's a big word, and it's like I went to grad school too, sweetheart. Like, but the difference is I know what those words mean. But I think it is this whole thing where she's trying to present herself as someone who's smart and somebody who's, you know, like, oh, I'm right, and you know, picking and choosing things that validate her own view, and it's dangerous, and it does. It needs to be called out.
Absolutely.
I just want to interject here. Deanna posted the information I was struggling to remember. Landmark Education was the child of Warner Earhart. Deanna, do I got the name wrong? And Earhart was in Scientology. There was a point in the 1960s and early 1970s where a trip through Scientology was, I don't know how to say that word, de
rigueur.
Thank you. For spiritual seekers. So yeah, I just couldn't remember names, the landmark, but yeah, that's another bit I'm going to look into too. So, but yeah, okay, Deb.
So basically, I just have this to close with. Yeah. As I say, I was the least, I guess, pre-prepared for this tonight, and I've soaked up a lot and learned quite a bit. So it's a fucking cult. It's cult. It's poop cult. Don't join the poop cult. Seriously, it's just yeah. OD got a kick out of that. She must have missed it the first time I played it. Said I ever since I heard about this shit on literally on Dr. Phil, I hear this song every time I think about it, which I try to.
You're not the only one that does. So I've heard that song quite a bit this week, but
oh boy.
Oh, I love that song actually, but now it's gonna have a whole new fucking meaning.
Steve says copyright claimed reluctantly by TLC. Luckily, we don't monetize on YouTube, so I don't give a fuck. So there you go. But yeah, thanks to everybody in the chat for keeping it lively. You know, Triss and Dee and Nate and Steve and Ronald over on the Spreaker side. Poor Ronald, he's over there all by himself. I told him he should have come over to the YouTube side, but yeah, I guess he likes the Spreaker. But yeah, thanks for coming and hanging out with us. We appreciate it. And I know Steve doesn't get off this early on Mondays from work, so that often. So thanks for popping in and joining us. Yes. He's talking now over there about doing a new segment about cults, and I'm like, hey, we should do that together.
Yeah, I've been trying to throw in cultic thingies here and there.
People love hearing about weird ass cults.
Yeah,
like,
the problem, I won't say problem, but the problem with that is that I started researching Epperly Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
So 6 days. I've probably put in about 60 to 80 hours. Well worth it. I'm not complaining on that, but it does. I mean, really, the more I found, the more I just was like, holy fuck. I was staying up to 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, which I normally do not do, but I have.
I noticed. Like, wait a minute. What are you still doing up? That's my job.
I was like, oh my God. So I actually took yesterday off because of it, because I knew I was tired and I wanted to finish. That's why my outline was a little bit skittish. So hopefully
it was fine. It was good.
But yeah, hopefully that gives you guys some information to dig into it, further, go deeper than I did, for the show tonight. But who knows? Let's shut her down.
I'm thinking somebody should find Cheryl from like three some years ago that thought she could grow limbs back on the Skype call with me and Photo.
Yeah.
And introduce her to Jill and see if they could actually make the shit work.
Yeah. I forgot. I forgot about her.
Oh yeah.
Wild.
Jesus, I ask you in the name of the Lord, grow this man's arm longer. Via Skype, no less.
Yeah.
I believe it's episode 21 if you want to laugh your ass off for 2 hours. Highly recommend it. But anyway, we got to wrap things up because as you may remember, I have to call my mother back. She wants to tell me about Christmas, apparently. So, woo.
It's fucking October 1st.
I know.
Jesus.
I finally had to break down and put on a sweater today. I'm not pleased. It was actually, this is weird. It's actually 2 degrees warmer now than it was at 2 o'clock this afternoon. Yeah, it was down to like 8 degrees. That's in Canuck degrees, people, just so you know. Anyway, hi Ron. Sorry you're kind of late. We're just about to close things up here, but thanks for dropping by anyway. But anyway, Beth, do you want to tell everybody where they can find you?
Easiest way to find me is on Twitter, Dune998, which connects to my blog, which will be having a lot of Jilly juice on it in the future. I have 10 posts outlined right now. And that also connects to Facebook. Easiest way. If you send me a friend request, please put that it's show related or I probably will ignore you.
Awesome.
And Morgan, where can we find you?
All right, you can catch me on the Bi Skeptical podcast with Tris Momone, and you can find that on Spreaker, Stitcher, and iTunes, wherever you get your podcasts. You can also find me on Twitter and Instagram at Mostring, Mostring. You can also find me on Facebook, Morgan L. Stringer. Also, I will be on the Wayward Willis podcast coming up. So, not sure which episode that's going to be, but.
And what are you talking about?
Oh, just being well, I'm going to talk about like being an atheist of the South.
Oh, that's a challenge, definitely. Whoa, and we lost Beth all of a sudden. Bet you she clicked the wrong button or something. Anyway, thank you. And of course, you'll find us here next week at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, Beyond the Trailer Park. You can find us at beyondthetrailerpark.com. I've got a couple of things coming up due to the whole mess going on with the Kavanaugh debacle and the Catholic Church and everything. I am recording with the Atheists Manifesto this week, and I'm going to talk about my story as a survivor of sexual assault. And I'm also appearing on the Right to Reason podcast this week, also talking about my experience as a survivor of sexual assault. So heavy stuff, I know, but it's important. So feel free to drop by and have a listen on both of those shows. So pre-recorded, so I'm not sure exactly what date they drop, but follow Atheists Manifesto and the Right to Reason podcast, and you'll find out when those are coming out, because they're both soon, I think. Yeah, and as I say, we'll be back next week. We'll find something equally as interesting. I don't know if we're gonna be quite this bizarre, but we'll see what we can come up with. as Steve said, sorry, Mom, I'm busy talking about a poop cult. Yeah. Oh, there she's back. But she's muted. There she goes.
I hit the wrong button.
What did I say? What did I say?
You did.
I'll shut down.
Called it.
I was like, I'll shut you. I have the YouTube chat open, and I'm like, oh, I'll shut that. Oh, shit. I closed the whole fucking thing.
That's okay. Good. So I will leave you all with the human creed for mankind, and we will see you back here next week.
I know the truth and power of reason and of rational thinking, and I will use them to my advantage. I know the truth and power of educating myself and of expanding my intellectual boundaries, and I will educate myself. I know the truth and power of vanquishing ignorance, and I will do so whenever the opportunity presents itself. I know the truth and power of morality without supervision, and of true and accurate righteousness. I know the truth and power of obliterating tyranny, be it intellectual, emotional, or philosophical, and will work toward that goal whenever and however possible. I know the truth and power of human ingenuity. I know the truth and power of human compassion, and I will be mindful of the welfare of others. I know the truth and power of equality and fairness for all living things. I know the truth and power of the importance of our families, our friends, and our fellow men and women. I know the truth and power of human stewardship of our lands, our waters, and our skies, and I will try to act to preserve our environment. I know the truth and power of the sciences of mathematics, of physics, and of chemistry, and of the important role of these disciplines in understanding the workings of this cosmos. I know the truth and power of the rejection of all notions or beliefs that reside in the supernatural or the superstitious, and of those notions or beliefs that we are not supposed to be able to explain. And I know that these rejections are necessary for humankind's survival. I am a human being with a free mind, liberated from irrational influence and from unreasonable dogma.